Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3740 AN. Today's date is September 28th, 2025, and the title of the episode is More Tariffs on Country Means More Manufacturers Returning to U.S. Fire Powell. What I find very interesting, that 1 in 4 low-income households spend 15% or more of their income on energy bills. This leaves many families having to decide between putting food on the table or paying their power bills. Since 2022, retail electricity costs have increased faster than the rate of inflation. This is why I use this magical little device and would never go a month without it. It is state-of-the-art energy-saving tool that minimizes dirty electricity and environmental impact. This gadget can be effortlessly connected to any regular electrical socket and employs advanced technology to oversee and fine-tune energy usage in your household. By scrutinizing and modifying the electric current, it can notably diminish the quantity of energy consumed by your home appliances and gadgets without impairing their effectiveness or operation, and help support lowering your energy bills. Do your wallet a favor and grab one while it's on sale now for up to 60% off only at don'twastepower.com before your next pricey power bill comes in. Plus, if you order now, you'll also get a 60-day 100% money-back guarantee and several other bonuses. Once again, that deal is only at don'twastepower.com or click the link in the description. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum. You could see every step of the way Trump now is continually building and building and building the new parallel economic system. And as he placed more tariffs on countries like Mexico and Canada, what is he doing? He's forcing the manufacturers back to this country. Yes, he's bringing in a lot more money into the parallel economic system to compete with the Federal Reserve, but he's also bringing the manufacturers back to this country, because you have to remember, going back in time and as we came off the gold standard, the deep state, the central bankers knew that they were going to have to force the manufacturers out of this country. Now, of course, they're not just going to come out and say, listen, we want you to all to leave. So what they do behind the scenes is they create more regulations, more taxes. They make it very difficult for the companies to operate in this country, because they knew as time goes on and as the deep state continually borrows from the Federal Reserve, they knew that the currency was going to devalue. And as the currency devalues, what happens? It becomes much more difficult for the American person to purchase items that are produced in this country. So to counter all this, they knew that they were going to have to move these companies out of this country. And they were going to have to move them to Canada. They were going to have to move them to Mexico, and especially out in China, where basically there's very, very cheap labor. And they were going to have to make sure that any product that was coming back to the United States, there were no tariffs whatsoever. It was only one-sided. Trump now is reversing all this, and all the deals that the deep state, the central bankers, have made with the other countries. He is now basically dismantling all of that and pretty much going to force the manufacturers back to this country. And as time goes on, I do believe once he has the tariff system completely and utterly up and running, the gold card being sold across the world, energy sales sold across, all the energy sold across the world, and we're drilling for oil here and energy prices are going down, we're going to start to see that he's going to start to make the move into an alternative currency. And I do believe it might be multiple alternative currencies that are coming soon to this country and probably many other countries around the world, because as countries see the United States moving away from the central bank and Trump actually taking control over the creation of currency, I do believe eventually what's going to happen across the world, other countries are going to follow. And this is going to be the demise of the central bank system, because once the people are awake, once the people understand what the central bank is and how different it is between their system and Trump's system that he's building right now, that's when the people of this country and the people of the world will say, no, we don't want that. We want this. And that's what Trump is building up towards. And yes, he has to take control over the Federal Reserve, because once again, he has to make sure that he has the ability to push the new system forward. Because what do you think the Federal Reserve is trying to do? They're trying to stop the new system from going forward, because if there is a tariff system, which there is, he's building it right now, what do we need the Federal Reserve for? We don't. Really think about it. If we're bringing in all the currency from other countries and we brought manufacturers back to this country and we shift away from the Federal Reserve and them creating the currency, what is the reason to have the Federal Reserve? There's absolutely no reason whatsoever. Is there a reason to have the IRS? No, the only reason the IRS is here is because they're the enforcers of the Federal Reserve because, again, the pieces of paper that you have or the digital blips that are in the banks, they really don't belong to you. Their enforcers are there to make sure that they collect. It's almost like if a loan shark person said, listen, I will give you this money, but if you don't pay up, if you don't pay the interest payments, I got my enforcers. They're going to come to your house. They're going to break your legs because that money is really not yours. It belongs to the loan sharker, just like the piece of paper that we have today that says the Federal Reserve note. It doesn't belong to you. They want their payment on that money. And you could see that Trump is about to reverse all this. And this is why step by step, he's introducing more and more tariffs because, again, you don't do everything at once. You do it very slowly and you make sure that everything stays stable because he doesn't want to down the system. He doesn't want to hurt the people. Yes, will it be bumpy? Will it be easy? No. But I do believe he's going to do whatever he possibly can to make sure that people don't lose their wealth compared to a central bank system where if they're shifting into a new system, which they're doing out in Europe, as you could see, because already the UK is saying we're introducing the digital ID, which also goes to the central bank digital currency. Of course, they're not going to tell you that right away. That comes later. But you could see that they don't care if they down the entire economic system and they hurt the people. They don't care if the entire world goes into a recession, depression. That doesn't bother them whatsoever. Trump, he wants to make sure that everyone keeps their wealth, people don't lose their wealth, and the economy doesn't go into depression. And this is why he's taken this approach. And if you look, you could see he's placing more and more tariffs on many different products. He put this out on Truth. He said the following: we'll be imposing a 50% tariff on all kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, and associated products starting October 1st. Additionally, we will be charging a 30% tariff on upholstered furniture. The reason for this is the large-scale flooding of these products into the United States by other outside countries. It is very unfair practice, but we must protect, for national security and other reasons, our manufacturing process. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And then he also said that we're going to be placing 100% tariff on pharmaceutical products. Now, remember, what country produces a lot of our pharmaceutical products? That's China. China, produces a lot of our products. Now, if there's a company that is building a manufacturing plant, or if there's already a generic plant in this country, well, I do believe, as Trump says, they don't have to worry about it. This is what he put out on Truth. Starting October 1st, 2025, we will be imposing a 100% tariff on any branded or patented pharmaceutical product, unless a company is building their pharmaceutical manufacturing plant in America. Is building will be defined as breaking ground and or under construction. There will, therefore, be no tariff on these pharmaceutical products if construction has started. Thank you for your attention to this matter, which means if a pharmaceutical company is building their plant in this country and they're shifting everything away from another country, they're completely exempt from all of this. And there's a lot of generic manufacturers out there that are, hey, you know what's interesting? Sometimes you buy a watch just to tell time, but this one tells a story. The Trump wristwatch, black steel band, bold, solid red face. It's sharp, it's strong, and it stands out. But more than that, every time you check the time, it's a little reminder that the truth still matters. In a world where everyone's trying to spin you, this watch is like carrying a compass that points you back to what's real. And hey, let's be honest, it looks good. It honestly goes with everything. Dress it up or keep it casual. For some, it's a daily piece you'll wear proudly. For others, it's perhaps something you'll hold on to as a collector's items, a reminder of this moment in time, and what a time to be alive, right? Either way, it's not just a watch, it's a statement of what you believe in. It's the kind of thing you'll be glad you've got when someone asks, where were you when all of this was happening? You can just point to your wrist and say, right here, keeping track. So yeah, sure, it tells the time, but also it tells a story, one that represents the truth. And these days, that feels even more valuable. Get yours today at the magaoffers.com/X22Red, or click the link in the description below the video, and you'll get a nice discount just for being a loyal listener of our show. Thank you. Currently building plants in this country. And there's a lot of generic drugs that are created out in China. So this is going to be very, very interesting. And you could see that everything is about to change. And Trump is also imposing a 25% tariff on imported heavy trucks starting October 1st. This is what he put out on Truth. He said the following: in order to protect our great heavy truck manufacturers from unfair outside competition, I'll be imposing, as of October 1st, 2025, as a 25% tariff on all heavy big trucks made in other parts of the world. Therefore, our great large company manufacturers such as Peterbilt, Kenworth, Freightliner, Mack Trucks, and others will be protected from the onslaught of outside interruptions. We need our truckers to be financially healthy and strong for many reasons, but above all else, for national security purposes. So, what are the countries right now that are actually supplying medium and heavy duty trucks to the U.S.? Well, the largest is Mexico, followed by Canada, Japan, Germany, and Turkey. And I do believe that Trump is going to be renegotiating the USMCA in the beginning of 2026. So this, right now, we're shifting everything away from all these other countries and bringing everything back. Remember, NAFTA, when that was created, Trump didn't have that much leeway in renegotiating because it was trapped and there were certain parameters that couldn't be renegotiated. This time around, it's a little bit different because when he created the USMCA, he put clauses in there where he could renegotiate the USMCA. And when you're placing tariffs on other countries, this actually gives you the leverage for renegotiation. So this is going to be very, very interesting. And remember, all of this is being done to bring the manufacturers back to this country because we don't need to manufacture outside of this country anymore. The only reason we had to do this was because of the Federal Reserve, because the value of the country was declining. And as time goes on and as Trump keeps inflation steady, it doesn't mean the other inflation disappears, but he wants to make sure that inflation isn't increased over time. So this way, if he keeps it steady, he can bring the manufacturers back to this country. He can give them tax credits. He can remove regulations. Plus, as energy costs come down, which they're going to come down quite a bit in 2026, what's going to happen is it's become cheaper and cheaper for the manufacturers to produce the products. And as wages start to move up, they'll be able to hire the American worker. Now, as all of this is happening and he's weaning us off of the Federal Reserve, off of the income tax, that is going to put a lot more buying power back in the pockets of the people, which means if they have this buying power, they can afford the products in this country. And I do believe this is where all of this is headed. And when you really look at the economy has basically come out of this recession, deep recession that Biden has created, the Federal Reserve has created, and Trump now is building it, and it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger every single day. And you have to remember, he needed to basically wipe out all the numbers that the previous BLS chair was putting out there because, again, he needed to start from a point where everyone knows the numbers, the job numbers are really, really bad. And then he can build upon this to show that, look, these are Biden's job numbers. We've lost, 1, 2, 3 million jobs. Now I'm building it up and we're gaining all of these jobs. Because if it was the other way around and it was shown that Biden created all these fake jobs, it would show, as you could see when they had the other BLS chair, the jobs were being lost because they weren't really there. So they were trying to convince everyone the opposite was happening. Now, Trump is starting from a baseline of all these jobs are illusionary. And now, as he brings manufacturers back, you can see the jobs are now being created. When you look at the economy, you look at the GDP numbers, they look pretty darn good. Trump put this out on Truth. He said the following: great numbers came out today on the economy, 3.8%, and the success we are having, but our interest rates are too high. If it weren't for Jerome Too Late Powell, we would be at 2% right now. And in the process of balancing our budget, the good news is that we're powering through this incompetence and will soon be doing, as a country, better than we have ever done before. And you could see when you look at certain things like mortgage rates under Trump, they're continually declining. Right now, they're at 6.26%. And as the rates are being cut, you're going to see this continually coming down. Now, yes, are you going to see sometimes the rates go up a little bit? But I think overall, when you start to look at when Trump came into office, you can see the trajectory is a downward decline because we started at 6.94%. We're at 6.26%. And think about it. If Trump actually brings the rates down another 2 points, now, of course, he's going to have to get rid of Cook. He's probably going to have to get rid of Powell to do this. But if he does this, mortgage rates are going to drop dramatically. Financing for automobiles is going to drop dramatically. And businesses will be able to take out loans to expand their businesses. People have credit cards, the rates will be reduced. And you're going to see that everyone's going to be getting their buying power back. And as they get their buying power back and rates are reduced and they don't have that much interest on credit cards and wages continually increase, this is really going to help the economy quite a bit. Now, remember, Trump is still playing within the central bank illusionary economy. But eventually what's going to happen is we're going to completely and utterly break free from all of this. And of course, the Fed, they don't really want to drop the rates. And this is why Powell is continually out there cautioning everyone that just because the GDP numbers are surging, we still have to be very careful because inflation could pop up at any moment. And again, they're doing this and they're laying this narrative out there because they want people to understand that most likely, maybe the next time around, they won't be raising the rates. They're going to try to make a case where they don't raise the rates. Now, of course, Trump is on the other side where he's going to force them to lower the rates. But again, the only way to do this is to get rid of Cook or to get rid of Powell. And Trump is already pointing the finger at Powell, as we know. We'll be discussing that in just a sec. But when you look at the Fed's favorite inflation indicator, it shows no signs of runaway tariff costs. So, yes, there's a very, very modest increase 2 months ago. And when you really look at this, this is actually normal when the Fed looks at their favorite inflation indicator, core PCE. And when you look at it today, it's hovering between 2.6% and 2.9%, which is really not that big of a deal compared to when you looked at it from Biden. We were what? Very close to 8%. So are we really seeing inflation run away? Absolutely not. And all those expecting a bounce in durable goods inflation, well, they're going to have to wait again because actually in August it declined. And so did non-durable goods. So that is very, very interesting. And when you really think about it, what else is happening? We could see that income is increasing for the private sector. So when you look at wage growth for the private workers, it has increased by 5% year on year. And when you look at the entire economic system, yes, wages have to increase because it has to keep up with the inflation that Biden and other presidents have created. Trump is keeping the inflation pretty darn steady. So people don't have to worry about that. So if the wages go up right now, it can counter pretty much a lot of what Biden has done. Not completely, but once again, when Trump drops the energy costs and actually starts to reverse everything the central bank has done, where all of a sudden we're going to get the money back from the taxes that we're paying because we don't have to pay the taxes anymore. This is when people are going to start to see their buying power really start to come back. And yes, step by step, as Trump builds the parallel economic system, he can't just do it at once. So he has to do it in stages. This is why he started with, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. Eventually, he'll lead into no income tax because once the parallel system has the ability to pay for the interest that's due to the Federal Reserve, this is when Trump can start to wean us off of the Federal Reserve. And I do believe Trump, in the end, wants to make it so the Federal Reserve has no power whatsoever. The central bankers don't have power here. They don't have power around the world. And we're not dependent on the Federal Reserve. And I do believe this is why step by step he is now moving in that direction. You can see this is why the central bank is now pushing back. When you start to look at Europe and you look at what the UK is doing, what the EU is doing, they're preparing to try to move us into the Great Reset, their new central bank system with the central bank digital currency. This is why the UK is introducing the digital ID. It's not just so people can work there and it could show that, hey, you are a citizen of the UK and you can get a job. It's actually tricking the people just like everything else. They're actually setting it all up for the Great Reset, just like they did with COVID. If you look at Australia, New Zealand, and the EU, they were setting up the vaccine passport in those areas. Here in the United States, a little bit more difficult because we have the Constitution. They do not. They do not have the Constitution like we have. Actually, the people in these other countries, they really have no rights whatsoever. You might as well just call them privileges. And this is why they're moving forward with their plan. But again, their plan's going to fail because what do they need? They need the U.S. They thought they were going to be able to destroy the U.S. They thought they were going to be able to bring the economy down here. They thought they were going to be able to bring us to war. But all of that is now failing. Plus, we have legislation already saying that we're not going to the central bank digital currency. I think Trump signed the executive order in that case. And we could see that eventually what's going to happen is Congress is going to pass laws saying that we're not moving towards a central bank digital currency. Plus, if you want to move into a central bank digital currency in this country, Congress has to do that because, again, it's a completely different currency than what we have today. So in the end, I think what Trump wants to do, he wants to make the Federal Reserve, the central bank system, as weak as possible. So he has complete and utter control and leverage over the central bank system. And we, the people, the country, is not dependent on them anymore. And what's very interesting is Trump on Truth Social put out a cartoon, and it's him pointing to Powell. He has a box with all his stuff in there saying, "You're fired." Because I do believe in the end, he's going to have to get rid of Powell one way or another to drive the system to the next level. And the next level is reducing the rates very, very low, taking control of the Federal Reserve, having the leverage over the Federal Reserve. So this way, the parallel system really starts to move. And I do believe that is the next step in all of this. And I do believe once he gets control and leverage over the Federal Reserve, that's when he's going to start to talk about alternative currencies, going back to the Constitution, going back to gold. Now, it might not be the next day, but I do believe he'll start to talk about this. And I do believe that he'll mention it, he'll start building the narrative. And once we have control of the House and the Senate, and he's able to remove certain laws or create certain laws or maybe even constitutional amendments, maybe not by Congress or maybe by the states, I do believe you're going to see the narrative is going to increase in regards to going back to the Constitution, going back to sound money, going back to gold, using alternative currencies like Bitcoin. So I do believe we're going to see this happen in stages, and he's going to keep pushing this. And I do believe once he gets control of the Federal Reserve, you're going to start to see that narrative start to build. And gold is getting very, very close to $3,800 an ounce. And I do believe this is going to go much, much higher. And the same with silver and Bitcoin, because again, people are going to start to realize that the fiat currency has lost a tremendous amount of value. And I do believe once we get rid of the manipulation, once we get rid of the paper markets, you're going to see silver and gold really start to move. And that is going to change everything. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.